Hello everyone, welcome back to MLS Moves. Please make sure you like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Before we get to the video, I'd like to thank you all for your support and remind you that we're doing a jersey giveaway when we hit 3,000 subscribers. 3,000 subscribers is our goal to reach by the end of this month, so make sure you subscribe, stay subscribed, follow me on Twitter at MLS Moves for the latest updates on the giveaway. Now, on to the video. MLS has tried for years to capture the Liga MX and Mexican national team fans in the United States to start paying attention to Major League Soccer and try to gain the viewership, considering Liga MX is the most watched league in the United States. They've signed stars like Carlos Vela, Giovani Dos Santos, and Chicharito, trying to get the name recognition in order to get these fans engaged and try to transition them into watching the league. Today, I brought on Eric Gomez of ESPN Mexico to talk about why MLS has failed to get the Mexican-American audience to watch its league and how they can try to get the Mexican-American fans to watch MLS going forward. All right, guys, we have Eric Gomez back to talk a little bit about missed opportunities by certain players MLS has signed, Mexican national team stars. How does MLS capture the Liga MX fan in America and in Mexico? Eric, welcome back. It's good to have you, my friend.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, so obviously the first big Mexican national team signing that I can remember is Blanco for the Chicago Fire back in 2007. I think that was the time he signed, but that was when MLS was very, very small, it didn't really have the same carry that you thought it would have. I don't think it really moved the needle for the league at all.
I don't know. I mean, outside of Chicago, maybe that's true. I think Chicago really enjoyed having him there. Similar things can be said for even the earliest days of MLS. Jorge Campos signed with the Galaxy back in '96. You had Carlos Vela, Luis Hernandez, a bunch of those guys who are idols to those of us who grew up in the '90s and watched Mexican soccer. So there have been numerous cases throughout MLS's 28-year history in which Mexican players have gone on to play for really important franchises. And I would say that, the effect of having those types of players there has been uneven, but essentially it kind of serves the purpose that you're talking about, which is MLS knows that it has a very, very large base of Mexican-American soccer fans that it wants to appeal to. And, I think they're doing it. And we'll talk a little bit more about the reasons why. But, Gio, which is the guy you mentioned, Gio is a player that I think even for Mexican fans was a bit of a mystery because he never played in Mexico until the very last part of his career. This is a guy who, grew up in the Barcelona system, shared a pitch with Ronaldinho and Messi and all those fantastic Barcelona players, and then kind of went on a really unfortunate career trajectory, at least in Europe. And when he was finally kind of getting his stuff together over there at Mallorca, he decides to go and play for the Galaxy, which was a great decision for him as far as, taking care of his family, economically speaking, playing in a market that I think mostly adored him in front of a lot of Mexican-American fans, as you said. But I agree with you. I don't think it had the impact or the intended impact that it should have had.
Yeah, I know that the Galaxy were chasing Gio for quite a while. Like they tried to sign him back in 2012, and he just was not ready to make that jump yet, because I think he was 22 or 23 at that time. And obviously they were persistent, kept trying to get him to sign with the club. And he did in 2015. But when you look at his tenure with the Galaxy, it's honestly forgettable. I mean, it's like he came and went there. I mean, he didn't win any trophies, obviously. It didn't feel like he made a big impact on the market. You didn't really see as many Gio Dos Santos jerseys as you would think you would. I mean, he was never Chicharito's popularity level,
Right.
but you didn't really make the impact that you thought a player like that would, especially in a market like LA. Like you said, there's so many Mexican Americans. It felt like it was honestly a miss, Eric, when you really look at it, compared to what you thought it could have been.
Yeah, I mean, played for 4 seasons or parts of 4 seasons. 2016 was only, I would say, the one season where he raised some eyebrows of how good he was. Unfortunately, this is a guy who also had, a lot of injury problems over the course of his career. He was just amazingly talented, but never quite able to put it together, which was very frustrating for, fans of the teams that he played for in the Mexican national. And I would argue that he was at his best when he was with the Mexican national team, because he had some really important moments, 2011 Gold Cup, 2014 World Cup, etc. He was great for the Mexican national team. But at the club level, he always seemed to struggle with consistency. And I think that is unfortunately kind of the mark of his career. But, you're going to take swings and misses if you're the LA Galaxy, if you're LAFC, if you're Chicago Fire, Houston Dynamo, these markets that have a lot of, again, Mexican American fans living within those communities and cities. Gio raised a lot of eyebrows because he was 26, but at the same time, I think, again, he made a really good decision for himself. But, I don't think the LA Galaxy necessarily thought it through. And they got a better deal, at least on the pitch, when they signed his brother, right? So,
Yeah, exactly. And it was funny because I remember at that time specifically, I think they were targeting Gignac to come from Tigres. They were really trying to get him, and then Jonah was kind of like a settle signing for them, sort of, because that was their main target, was a striker. And like you said, he ended up being the better of the two Dos Santos brothers. But yeah, I just feel like, even talking about Carlos Vela, right? That was their first signing the LAFC had made, because it's been um, crucial and very important to the LA clubs that when they want to capture that Mexican American audience. And even Vela, who I personally believe, now this could be debated, right? I don't know if you feel this way as well, but I think when Carlos Vela is like focused and he is all in on the moment, he's the most talented Mexican player I've ever seen. Honestly, I just think he's incredible. It's just a matter of his commitment. Obviously, there's always been the rumors about him not really loving soccer. He just does it
right.
as a job. He likes the other sports more. But man, he's done things that he has had the best season in MLS I've ever seen of any player. 34 goals, 15 assists. Messi looks like he's on record to break that, but we're talking about Messi and Vela in the same sentence.
Right.
Even with that season and LAFC being very good, Gio and his tenure with the Galaxy, they were inconsistent. They weren't good all the time. They had a lot of ups, a lot of downs, mostly downs. But even with Vela, it feels like even he couldn't really capture the Mexican American audience like you think someone like that would be able to.
I think you need different things in order to make that happen. You need to have, obviously, the skills, the talent, just being as explosive on the field as Vela was for LAFC. But he's kind of what Europeans would call kind of a mercurial guy, right? Like, he isn't really comfortable in front of a camera. You could tell. He's not a guy that's going to make a lot of public appearances. He's not Zlatan in the sense that he's going to go on Jimmy Kimmel or whatever. And that could be, you need to get to a certain level, a Messi type level, where that can be forgiven, right? So beyond just kind of thinking about Carlos Vela, he's not going to capture hearts and minds the way that a guy like Chicharito would, essentially, just because you have to put together the personality with the talent. And Vela only had half of that equation. Now, it was a hell of a half, right? He was just amazing throughout his time in MLS, but and he still might be. And I think the rumors about him not necessarily loving soccer to a point where he can live without it. We're looking at that right now, because San Jose's been talking about signing him for months, and he's perfectly okay sitting at home, right, in LA, and going back to Spain with his wife. He's
Yeah.
perfectly okay with that. So I think you do need both parts of that equation for it to happen. Chicharito would have been a fantastic option had, again, injuries not been a factor, age not been a factor. And it's, for me, it's not going to happen until you find a guy in the prime of his career that is able to combine that likability and just that everyman quality with amazing output on the field every weekend or so.
Well, it's, that's the next player I was going to talk about is Chicharito. This was, if you went to an MLS meeting 10 years ago and you said, who are 5 players that we would kill to sign, right? Chicharito is on that list because he was the biggest Mexican national team player there was. He was the brand. Like you said, he was good on the field. He was good off the field. He had a Hollywood smile, Hollywood personality, just a likable guy. And on top of it, he's bilingual. He speaks both languages fluently. I mean, it's like the perfect culmination. They tried to sign him in 2015. Orlando City did. It didn't. He wasn't ready to obviously make the move. He ended up signing with Leverkusen, if I'm not mistaken, at that time. And they were able to finally get him at 31 years old. And I think he was going to turn 32 that season. It was the COVID season with the Galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
But Eric, I was thinking to myself, my God, this is a perfect culmination. You have Chicharito, the biggest Mexican star maybe ever, at least off the field, with the biggest club in MLS history in the Mexican American market in LA. I was thinking there's no way they could screw this up. Like LA Galaxy are going to be selling kits left and right. You're going to see Chicharito, Javier Hernandez kits in Mexico, California, everywhere. But that didn't happen, man. It feels like kind of like the Gio Dos Santos, maybe not as extreme, like it's not exactly like that. He was definitely more popular than Gio Dos Santos, but
Right.
it was a missed opportunity compared to what we thought it could be.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, that's just bad luck, right? Because again, he gets to MLS in 2020. That's a weird season. We could kind of write that off. And then he goes on a run in 2021 when he's on the pitch, right? Because he played 21 games in that season. He scored 17 goals. Then in 2022, another very good season. And then after that, it's just kind of a mess, right? So you only got a taste of the experience. And again, that's going to happen more times than not when you sign guys who are over 30 years old. But at the end of the day, it's still very disappointing because, a lot of the things that you mentioned that made Chicharito a star off the field, he kind of got sick of, right? And he started to display a different type of attitude, surrounded himself with different types of people. And, right now, it would seem that having Chicharito back in Liga MX, even though he's 35, 36 years old, back with his boyhood club, would be this amazing story. I can assure you, nobody outside of Chivas fans cares about having Chicharito in Liga MX at this point, and that is just a marker of how much things have changed over the last few years. Again, not just on the field, because he's suffered a bevy of injuries. It's unfortunate. It comes with the territory. He played in the top European leagues. He played in the Premier League, La Liga, Bundesliga, as you said. And he just gave it all. He was absolutely fantastic. Not everybody, there are a handful of players in the history of CONCACAF who you can point to and say that guy has more than 150 goals in European football. I mean, that's nothing to sneeze at. But at the end of the day, like I said, he was 31. You're looking at guys who need to be either 26 or 27, or just have a clean bill of health throughout most of their career, if not all of their career, in order to make it happen at that particular stage, 30, 31, 32. And that's just a tall order. It's not going to be easy to get guys like that because, Chicharito was in 2015. If he really wanted to play for MLS at that point, he would have done so. But he was coming off a loan spell with Real Madrid. So I'm guessing, he was like, I can still cut it, man. I can still play at this level, and I'm going to keep going at it. And that's what he did. And he was there for another 4.5 years, and he did really, really well for himself. So it's hard, it's hard for Liga MX and MLS in general to kind of go after these guys in their prime and say, come over. Gignac was a unicorn for Liga MX. Ligue 1 is a really competitive league in Europe, but it's, debatable whether it's top 5 or top 6. And they were able to get Gignac at 29, and he's been just absolutely fantastic for them for 10 years. Imagine what would have happened if the likes of LA Galaxy would have been able to sign a guy like that, regardless of the fact that he's not Mexican That would have been a fantastic coup, not just for the club, but for the league itself. So you need luck to be able to make these things work. Guys like Hector Herrera, for instance, are fantastic on the field, but they don't have that sort of charisma and that branding off the field that's going to make you want to connect with them. A guy like Chucky Lozano, who's going to come over to San Diego next year, he can do it off the field, but it's dwindling on the field. So, it's really, really hard to kind of put those pieces together.
Well, we'll get into Chucky Lozano a little bit more because I think in your time, are you in Mexico right now, or are you in California?
I'm in
Okay,
Mexico City, yeah.
Mexico. Okay, because I remember one time you were in San Diego, so I know that
Yeah.
you'll probably follow that club pretty closely. One thing too that I kind of thought about as we've been having this conversation is when you look at all these stars, Vela, Chicharito, Dos Santos, when they played in MLS, Eric, it's like their national team career was pretty much over. And I think that was another reason why the popularity might have dropped off too, because these players, now Vela, he did play in the 18 World Cup, but he was done after that. So that was
Right.
his first season in Major League Soccer. And then he didn't play for the Mexican national team anymore. I don't think Gio maybe had a couple appearances, but
Yeah.
not really in MLS. And then I think Chicharito never had a Mexican national team appearance while he was in MLS, because I think he was there was some bad blood with the national team and him. So when you look at that, I feel like that also had to be a factor too, with people not really, they don't even play for the national team anymore. They're past their prime, or they're not really any good anymore.
That's where this relationship between MLS and Liga MX, and not just on the club level, but on the national team level with the Mexican Federation and Soccer United Marketing, having the Mexican national team play so many matches in the United States, that's where this becomes kind of a crucial thing. We're talking about combining on the field with off the field. Well, you also need, in order to sort of capture the attention of Mexican Americans living in the United States and who may or may not root for the Mexican national team, you need to have that deeper connection with these players. That's going to be difficult every single time, because not a lot of the managers who have taken over the Mexican national team over the last decade or so have been okay with these players signing in MLS. They're not okay with them signing back in Liga MX with these clubs. They would much rather have them play in Europe, right? At the end of the day, at least Jaime Lozano at this point, he's having his arm twisted because he doesn't have 15 players in Europe anymore to choose from. He has more like 5. So he has to go to the well of Liga MX and maybe even MLS. That's going to be an opportunity moving forward for what we're talking about. But at this point in time, having a player come back from European soccer, whether it's going to the United States or Mexico, that's going to hurt their national team prospects. And in essence, that's going to hurt their connection with the fans, because, again, you need to have players, and that's almost impossible to do, at a Lionel Messi level in order to have people not care about their home markets, right? So Bella played for LAFC, so you better believe that LA Galaxy fans, no matter what, if they were Mexican American or Guatemalan American or Polish American or whatever, they hated his guts because he played for LAFC. Same with Chicharito and Giovani and Jonathan Dos Santos. Like, that's part of what makes this such a difficult thing to achieve, right? At the end of the day, I would be okay with, in the future, having the big markets around MLS continue to sign these Mexican players in order to continue to grow their individual fan bases for their clubs. I don't think there's going to be a guy that kind of at a league level is able to bring people together in that way, because it's kind of a catch-22. You want fans in general to be interested in your league, but you also want to develop fandom for those specific teams, right? So having a guy play for LAFC is going to be a problem. Having a guy play for, the Red Bulls or for NYCFC is going to be a problem. Having a guy play for Seattle is going to be a problem because, everybody in Portland is going to hate their guts. So at the end of the day, it's going to be regionalized, but it's going to continue. And I think that's probably the best way to do it.
Yeah, and speaking to Chucky Lozano, which you mentioned earlier, it looks pretty likely he's going to end up signing with San Diego. San Diego has a very wealthy owner. They look like they're very committed to making their club a competitor from day one in MLS. Another player, Mexican national team player they've been linked with is Mimo Ochoa. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I mean, he's not. I think he's still good enough for MLS at least for a year or two, and he's obviously been the national team starter for almost 2 decades now.
Right.
So I mean, I don't see that there's a huge issue if they brought him in. And there's also been links for them to hire Piojo as their manager, which
Yeah.
I would absolutely love, even though I know your colleague Kurt Gomez says that he's a PR nightmare. But I think you need a little fire like that. I actually like that you don't know what you're going to get with Piojo. He's a loose cannon, right? You need, even if he's a villain of the league, you need a villain of the league. You need somebody who's going to call things out or be unpredictable. If San Diego's able to culminate that, they're able to get Piojo, Ochoa, Lozano. Are they automatically the most popular um, California team, as far as the Mexican American fans? I mean, are they going to surpass LAFC and the Galaxy?
I don't think so. And again, like there's a lot of things that go into that, right? I mean, I grew up in San Diego, and I don't like any of the LA teams. That's just the way it is. You go up. I mean, I'm a San Diego Padres fan, for instance, and Dodgers fans, they'll pretend that they don't care about us, but there's a rivalry there. Um, at the end of the day, that extends to whether you're again Mexican American or Anglo American or whatever you want. It's a matter of civic pride almost. So they're definitely going to be the most popular team with Mexican Americans in San Diego and maybe even the northern part of Mexico. But I don't think that extends to LA. And I think that's a credit to what the Galaxy have been able to do over the course of 28 years. I think it's a credit to what LAFC has done because they've nurtured a very passionate fan base in their very short time in existing within the confines of MLS. So San Diego understands that, and they know that they're going to have to carve out their own niche. And to do that, you need to go out there and you need to make waves, right? So Mexican players are available. A guy like Piojo Herrera, I completely agree with you, would be fantastic for the league. I mean, remember back in the day, Chivas USA hired Chelis, another Mexican manager. That guy has never won a title in Liga MX or anywhere else, but he was consistently one of the most popular managers in Mexico just because of his personality. And I think Piojo Herrera would definitely light a fire in the San Diego media and in that San Diego fan base. You're looking to make a splash because at the end of the day, the soccer community there is still in mourning because they lost San Diego Loyal, which was a huge blow. That team really made inroads with fans in San Diego. And, I'm glad to see that the San Diego FC owners understand that and they want to do right by these fans. They're going to, we're bringing in Chucky Lozano. We're bringing in Piojo Herrera. Memo Ochoa is, I think, kind of a 50-50 split at this point. He might be kind of leveraging that offer in order to get something else in Mexico. But I'm still excited about the possibility that fans along that border region will be able to enjoy the likes of Lozano, who, let's face it, is barely hanging on to European soccer as it is right now. So what were his options? Like he could go back to Liga MX. He could try it again with PSV, or he could go to MLS. And I think he's doing the best thing that he can possibly do for his career. Now we've talked about the national team aspect of this as well. Lozano has been on a very steady decline at the national team level since 2019. So I don't think he might make it to 2026. I think he understands that. And I think it's going to be one of those situations once more where you're getting a guy who's not even 30 years old, but not relevant at the national team level. And that's going to hurt his stock a little bit. Piojo Herrera, ever since he left the Mexican national team back in 2015, his career has kind of been a mixed bag. He won another title with Club America, but didn't really do well with Tijuana. And now this could really be a good opportunity for him. But what happens if he flops? I mean, MLS expansion teams don't tend to do well. So it's going to be very interesting. And I would say that if anything, they should hire Herrera just to make things a lot more interesting for fans and for the press.
Well, I think with Piojo, I think honestly after the national team situation, obviously he left earlier than he wanted to. He probably would have been the manager at least for the 18 cycle, you would think. I think he kind of got bored with club soccer in Mexico. Like, I think it was just kind of like one of the options. He's been saying for almost a decade now he wants to coach in MLS, and I just don't think anyone has given him a legitimate opportunity to make the transition over or hire him in MLS. So I think that, like you said, he won with Club America. That was like was 2018, 2019, something like
Yeah, in
that.
that range.
And then
Mhm.
obviously at Tigres, he kind of disappointed. But I think he's just been kind of bored, and especially with the personality like himself, he's just looking for something new to explore. And even if he does crash and burn in Major League Soccer, I do think he's going to be rejuvenized when he comes over here because it's so different. It's completely different, like we've talked about, throughout our two shows we've done. And then also with having a brand like Lozano and then Ochoa, even if he is washed at this point, their names, right? You
Yeah.
take all that together and you have the megaphone and Piojo. I do think that they have a chance to be a very popular, maybe even the most popular club in California because, like you said about the Galaxy and LAFC being having loyal fan bases with the Mexican American fans. I just don't know how many of those fans they've actually captured. They might have 10 to 20% of the market and they are loyal, but I do think there is a lot of fans in LA who maybe support Liga MX clubs who don't care anything about LAFC and the Galaxy because there's almost like 10 million, 13 million people in the metro area. I don't know exactly how many Mexican Americans are. I know it's like several million though. I mean, there's so many fans that just don't even care about Major League Soccer right now. And if San Diego does it right, I mean, it's only what a 3 hour drive, 2 hour drive.
2 hour
You,
drive. Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, it's not crazy, and especially if it's worth the drive to see something that you're interested in.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I can only sort of talk about my personal experiences with teams up in LA, but every time I go to the bank or down there in Carson, I hear a lot of Spanish and I hear a lot of what we call pocho, which is a mix of English and Spanish. There are a lot of Mexican American fans who go to those games. I know that in general, you don't just want the loyal fans who go to the stadium. You want to be able to capture people who might be able to just watch your games on TV most of the time, or buy a shirt every now and then. And I think you're absolutely right about that. They do need to continue to build that fan base over the course of the next few years, certainly, in order to kind of expand that foothold. But I still think that what clubs like LA Galaxy and LAFC have done is very important in terms of what other markets in in MLS and what their franchises can learn from them in ways that that might have eluded MLS in general even 10, 15 years ago. So it's a start. Think about Giovani Dos Santos. That's less than a decade ago, right? This sort of new era or current era of signing Mexican national team caliber players in MLS is less than 10 years old. So I do think that we need to kind of be patient with it in the sense that these players are not going to stop coming to MLS anytime soon, right? Even mid-tier guys like Rodolfo Pizarro and Alan Pulido, those guys, Cubo Torres made such a difference for Houston back in the day. Those guys can develop and become sort of local legends or regional legends in their own right. It's just a matter of allowing them the time and space to really endear themselves to certain MLS markets, and I think that's going to happen. I don't really think that's a hard sell as far as if you were to tell me, from here on out, the rest of the decade, 2024 over to 2030, we're going to see maybe 10 more Mexican players with national team experience make it to MLS. I would say that that's kind of a low number. I would
Yeah.
expect more of them to do that.
Yeah, and one of the last things I want to talk about, and we touched about this in our last episode, is Leagues Cup. Now, Leagues Cup is obviously all about the money, right? For both leagues, it's all about the money. It's all
Yeah.
about growing the roots and trying to. I think it honestly benefits Liga MX more because, like you had said, they're able to play on American soil. Fans who don't normally get to see them play in person are able to. I mean, there's teams playing in Seattle. I mean, they're all playing all over the country. There's opportunity to see your club. How I honestly think that Major League Soccer, along with Messi, obviously helped a lot with the growth and the interest in the league. But I do look at Leagues Cup, even if most people don't take it as a serious tournament. it did help the popularity and tying these two leagues closer together. I think some people have come to the realization that I don't have to have a Liga MX club and or an MLS club. I can have both. And I do think there's some fans that are like, I can like this team along with my hometown team, my Liga MX club, and vice versa, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
do you think Leagues Cup is the the most important thing to continue this growth process to get more Liga MX fans interested in Major League Soccer, or is it something else they need to do on top of that?
I mean, I don't think those things are mutually exclusive in the sense that I'll give you an example. Having the Mexican national team profit so much off of playing in the United States has helped the Mexican national team, certainly economically speaking, financially speaking. They made a lot of money. I'm actually working on a piece right now for ESPN about that. Um, but it hasn't precluded the U.S. men's national team from growing in popularity in their own country and becoming a better soccer program. So I think the same can be said about Leagues Cup and the relationship between MLS and Liga MX. I think MLS is certainly benefiting from that relationship on purely sporting perspective, right? They're able to get better by facing this league, not just, again, within the confines of the CONCACAF Champions Cup, but also in this tournament that pits literally everybody against everybody. And at the same time, as you said, Liga MX is making a lot of money off of this tournament. So that's going to help them grow in the future. I think, again, that could be a problem for MLS down the road, but it's not going to be the case, certainly in the next few years or so. And it allows people, as you said, I think Leagues Cup organizers were really smart about this. Last year you had the likes of a team like Puebla, which is a small market club in Liga MX playing in New York. The reason why they did that is because there are, I think, more than like 500,000 people from the state of Puebla living in New York City, right? So you're able to bring, and again, like when would Puebla qualify for the CONCACAF Champions Cup and just happen to play NYCFC or the Red Bulls, right? That's a very difficult thing to happen. But once you manufacture that, you're going to have people in Puebla going, hey, maybe they hadn't been to Citi Field or Yankee Stadium to watch a soccer game and say, this is pretty cool. This is pretty cool. And I kind of like those guys in the sky blue uniforms as well. I might check it out again, like even if Puebla isn't playing. It's a very, very smart decision to bring some of those Liga MX teams into markets that they might not have been able to explore in the past. So, that's just a really smart way to do it. I hope that, again, for the likes, for the hopes and dreams that MLS fans and certainly folks at MLS HQ have about growing the league, that this continues to happen. The one thing that just, kind of drives me wild about Leagues Cup in general, it isn't the travel. It isn't the fact that it's sort of this completely made up tournament that is very loosely disguised as a cash grab. It's simply the fact that we're gatekeeping soccer from fans a little bit more because, it's only on Apple TV. Folks in Mexico, like TV companies, didn't even buy tournament rights to Leagues Cup until the very end. Tudene stepped up and bought a kind of a limited package of games. And also, the one thing that Mexican fans complain about when it comes to the national team is that they never play in Mexico anymore. And now we're seeing a situation in which Mexican clubs are pausing their league season, their league calendar to go to the United States, play in this tournament far away from their fan bases. And then on top of that, we have this court ruling that will essentially allow FIFA to schedule league matches for, Liga MX teams in the United States. You better believe that's going to happen, right? So the gatekeeping aspect of it, the fact that we add a lot more matches to the soccer calendar, and that, that's going to, guys are going to get hurt. You're going to see kind of a lesser level of play. We saw that in last year's League Cup. Some teams, especially on the Liga MX side, rested their starters. They just kind of kept them out of those games. So I'm just hoping for better quality from that tournament in order to really kind of make it thrive. And in order for that to happen, they might need to make some changes that perhaps they're not as comfortable with right now as they should be.
Do you think this tournament needs to be played every year?
That's one of those changes, right? I would have this tournament played once every 2 years, and I would give fans in Liga MX markets an opportunity to watch some of those MLS teams, because it's not just about Mexican American fans. I mean, if you want to win hearts and minds, you got to go after Liga MX fans in Mexico. And as I said, I've seen plenty of people in the last few months wearing Inter Miami jerseys, but you're going to need more than that. You're going to need to have Lionel Messi play in more games in Mexico. I mean, you saw what happened during the CONCACAF Champions Cup when Inter Miami played in Monterrey. That was just insane. You need to have that, because I know that that's what MLS is dreaming about within its own market, but you already have a market that is absolutely crazy for soccer, and it's right in your backyard. So you have to take advantage of that as well.
I agree completely. I think that if you have it every year, it just kind of, it's kind of watered down. It needs to be something you look forward to. That's why the World Cup is so special for many, many reasons, not just that, but because it does happen every 4 years. And I think every 2 years would be ideal, especially like on an off year when there isn't Copa America or there
Right.
isn't the World Cup, to kind of fill that void of having some type of soccer tournament scratch your itch. But yeah, man, I agree. I think MLS will eventually capture these fans that they haven't reached yet, especially like we've talked about with the Liga MX ties, them strengthening that. And I think it's going to be mutually beneficial. I mean, this is the most I've ever watched Liga MX clubs play during Leagues Cup. I mean, I was watching games every single night for a month
Yeah.
straight. My wife was getting angry with me. She was wondering if she was still married. It's a lot of commitment. There's just a lot of games and stuff, but it was fun. Something to look forward to, something unique, something different. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Now, Eric, where can everybody follow you at?
Yeah, so on X or Twitter, it's at Eric Gomez 86. Same for TikTok, and just go to ESPN.com. We're consistently, writing stories for them. So yeah, that's where you
Yeah,
can find.
make sure you guys give him a follow. Make sure you check out his articles. We'll have to have you on again sometime soon, maybe even after the Champions Cup final. Also, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit that little bell notification so you never miss a video. Guys, if you like the content, subscribe so you don't miss any more. I appreciate all the support you guys show me. It's been an honor. It's been fun, and it's just great making content that you all enjoy. So I really appreciate that. And until next time, I will see you all soon.